Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to demystify the microscopic building blocks that actually allow your everyday devices to, well, remember data. If you've ever wondered how modern silicon manages to hold on to information in a literal sea of billions of electrical signals, you are definitely in the right place. We're diving straight into the fundamental foundation of sequential logic in modern digital systems.
When you look at the sheer, mind-boggling scale of a massive chip die, you really have to ask, how does a processor actually store a single one or zero? I mean, amidst this incredibly complex labyrinth of interconnects and logic gates, there's a very deliberate, elegant architecture designed for one sole purpose: retaining state. And today, we're going to unpack exactly how that works.
We've got a lot of ground to cover. We'll run through the digital memory problem, meet the latch, look at its transparency flaw, bring in the flip-flop, hit on timing constraints, and finally wrap up with some real-world applications. Let's get right into it.
All right, part 1, the digital memory problem, calculating versus storage. So why do we even need specialized memory circuits in the first place? Well, the foundation here is the critical difference between calculating and remembering. Your standard combinational logic gates, your everyday and, or, and not gates, they just calculate. They process inputs in real time, and the very second the input changes, boom, the output changes too. But sequential logic, that requires elements whose output depends on both the current input and previous states. You absolutely need a circuit that can actually trap and hold a voltage level over a period of time. To solve this vital memory problem, engineers came up with a pretty solid first attempt. Let's move on to part 2, meet the latch. A latch is essentially a level-sensitive storage element. The best way to think about a latch is like an open video recording. It remains completely transparent and continuously tracks any changes as long as its enable signal is active. Whatever is happening at the input is immediately passing straight through to the output, at least until you explicitly tell it to hold.
And it pulls this off through an absolutely brilliant concept called cross-coupled feedback. By taking two NOR or NAND gates and looping their outputs right back into their inputs, this feedback loop creates two stable states, Q equals 0 or Q equals 1. Because it's level sensitive, the output just follows the input the entire time that enable gate is asserted. Now, you'll definitely find these used for temporary storage within data paths, but as we'll see in a minute, they have some pretty serious quirks. To refine this basic concept, we use something called the D-latch. You see, the original set-reset, or SR latch, had a pretty glaring issue. If you accidentally triggered both the set and reset at the exact same time, you got this invalid, forbidden state. Zooming into the micro level, the D-latch solves this simply by using a single data input and an inverter. It basically makes it mathematically incapable for the set and reset inputs to be active simultaneously. It's a highly efficient fix, and it's used all the time in ASIC staging elements. But obviously, it's not a perfect fix for everything, which brings us to part 3, the transparency flaw. Here's the thing. The fatal flaw of the latch is exactly what makes it work in the first place. It's transparency. Because latches are continuously transparent when enabled, any glitch, literally any tiny blip of noise on the input, propagates straight to the output. When you have millions of these elements interacting, that open video recording analogy I used earlier, yeah, it turns into a total nightmare for system stability. So because of this transparency, data can actually circle around multiple times within just a single clock phase. We call this a race condition, and it creates completely chaotic, unpredictable circuit behavior. For engineers trying to verify designs using static timing analysis tools, these transparent windows create insanely complex timing arcs. They are nearly impossible to constrain. It's just way too chaotic for a massive modern synchronous system. To stop that absolute chaos, modern computing desperately needed a hero. Let's head into part 4. Enter the flip-flop. This is probably the most important distinction to remember in digital design. If a latch is like a continuous video recording, a flip-flop is a high-speed camera shutter. It is edge-triggered. It doesn't care at all how long the clock signal is high or low. It only snaps a crisp, single photo of the data at the precise millisecond the clock signal transitions from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. Everywhere between those edges, the output is locked tight. So how does it actually pull this off? It's pure engineering elegance, honestly. You just wire two latches in series to build a master-slave architecture. Step 1. The master latch captures the data while the clock is low. Step 2. The clock transitions high, the master locks, and the slave latch transfers that captured data to the output.
This guarantees that data is strictly captured on one clock edge and transferred on the next. No transparency, no race conditions, problem solved.
Of course, all that precision comes with some strict rules. Part 5. Crucial timing constraints. Because these things capture data in a mere fraction of a second, they have to follow strict timing rules to actually work. And if you break those rules, well, you summon the absolute villain of digital design, metastability. Metastability is this catastrophic state where the memory element just gets totally confused. It hovers at an undefined voltage, unable to decide if it's a 1 or a 0. If that unstable signal propagates down the line, it can corrupt entire pipelines and completely crash a processing unit. It's bad news. To dodge metastability, digital designers have to rigidly enforce 3 main parameters. First, setup time. The data must be perfectly stable before the clock edge arrives. Then you have hold time. The data has to remain stable just a tiny bit after the clock edge hits. Think back to our camera shutter analogy for a second. The subject needs to be perfectly still right before and right as the flash goes off. If they move, you get a blurry photo, or in our case, metastability. Finally, the clock-to-cue delay dictates how fast the output actually updates, which directly limits the maximum frequency your processor can even run at. All right, let's zoom back out from the microscopic timing rules for a minute. Part 6, Real-World Applications. The reality is, these flip-flops are literally everywhere. The exact device you're watching this explainer on right now, it relies on billions of D flip-flops. Whether it's a beefy Intel Core processor, the ARM Cortex in your smartphone, or the configurable logic blocks inside an FPGA, they are deployed in massive register files and interstage pipelines, all meticulously synchronized to make your screen, your apps, and your operating system work flawlessly. So here's a quick cheat sheet for you, especially handy if you've got a technical interview coming up at a semiconductor company. Remember these key differences. Latches are level sensitive, they are transparent, and they do draw slightly less power in area. But because their timing analysis is such a headache, they are rarely used. Flip-flops, on the other hand, are edge-triggered and non-transparent, making them the undisputed absolute standard building blocks for modern synchronous design. Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Based on everything we've explored today, ask yourself, why synchronous design completely avoids latches? It really comes down to the fact that the sheer chaos of race conditions forces billions of interconnected transistors to rely on the precise, heartbeat-like timing of the edge-triggered flip-flop instead. Controlling time is honestly just as important as controlling the data itself. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how the tech around you actually ticks.